Welcome to the HPG Blackout. My call sign is Longshadow, and I do not care if you are a Cameron or an Amaris because I am just an amateur historian who loves big stompy robots. Today we explore the Star League era. But since Comstar has us in a blackout, we need your help to get our signal out by liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content, just like this. The conflicts that arose among the First Nations inhabiting the Inner Sphere were inevitable, given that the Terran Alliance had the means to explore and scout habitable worlds, while the small proto-states that emerged after the Alliance's withdrawal from the interstellar community had to take what they needed from already inhabited neighbors. Some states grew through defense pacts and trade treaties, while others expanded through brutal conquest. Although the Age of War is typically thought to have started with the First Endurian War in 2398, open interstellar warfare had already begun with the Outer Reaches Rebellion in 2236, and it continued for the next 3.5 centuries. This historical context sheds light on the political and military dynamics that shaped the Inner Sphere and set the stage for the conflicts that would come to define it. The roots of the Age of War can be traced back to the early days of human settlement on extrasolar planets. The Terran Alliance's Grand Survey found humans living on more than 600 worlds by 2235, and even the poorest nations were able to export large numbers of their citizens to new worlds. However, as colonial governors appointed by Terra began to declare themselves absolute rulers or were viewed as such by an increasingly disgruntled populace, tensions erupted into open rebellion. The Terran Alliance deployed its colonial marines to suppress revolts in the outer reaches of human space in 2236, but this only fanned the flames of public dissent and sparked the Outer Reaches Rebellion, which sent the Marines packing and brought the isolationist Liberal Party into power. The Alliance constricted to a sphere of worlds within 30 light-years of Terra, abandoning hundreds of colony worlds to their fates. While the Terran Alliance fell apart, its now independent children set out to improve their lot, setting the stage for the conflicts that would come to define the Inner Sphere. After the Terran Alliance constricted its borders, the planets left in the interstellar community scrambled to set up new governments. While most attempted to adhere to Terran democracy, they were forced to institute stronger, more centralized administrations due to the stress of moving from fledgling colonies to multi-world alliances. This left governing to those with money, and many small states formed for the purposes of trade and mutual defense. These states expanded and merged over the decades, until by 2366, the 5 massive nations that would dominate the Inner Sphere for the next 700 years had formed. Although there had already been border clashes between these states, matters came to a head in 2398, which is generally seen as the starting point for the Age of War. The years leading up to the mid-2500s were marked by a period of intense warfare between the major states of the Inner Sphere. The Capellan state had been in conflict with the Free Worlds League for years, and in 2398, declared war to recover the Endurian systems. This sparked a chain reaction of conflicts between every major state in the Inner Sphere. The Lyran Commonwealth was assaulted by the Draconis Combine while preparing for its own conflict against the Free Worlds League. The Federated Suns battled the Combine, and the reformed Terran hegemony fought to reclaim the worlds its alliance predecessors had once abandoned. Meanwhile, the Capellans fought everyone around them. Although not every state was engaged in constant fighting against their neighbors during this era, there was always a major war underway along some interstellar border. In 2412, the Free Worlds League attacked the Capellan world of Tintaval, leading to one of the greatest tragedies in history. Battles tore through major cities, poorly worded orders and vague rules of engagement led to the death of thousands of civilians, and both sides employed nuclear and chemical weapons. Over 300,000 people were killed or injured, most of them non-combatants, and Tintaval was abandoned within a few years. Alicia Liao, the Chancellor of the Capellan Confederation, was appalled by the destruction and loss of life, and she sent out a personal call to the leaders of the other major Inner Sphere states and the 4 largest periphery nations. In New Olympia, she outlined her ideas to limit collateral damage in warfare, and this agreement became known as the Aries Conventions. However, the conventions did not end warfare, and signatories could still conduct audacious military campaigns with little risk, as long as they followed the rules of war. This set the tone for the remainder of the Age of War, long periods of a near bloodless conflict punctuated by horrific atrocities. The Aries conventions led to a resurgence of major interstellar campaigns in the Age of War, where nearly every border shifted back and forth as states went to war over every slight, real or imagined. The Capellan Confederation was the first to start a new conflict in 2418 when they assaulted the Taurian Concordat, which had refused to sign the conventions. Chancellor Arden Baxter showed no mercy to the Taurians, but later reversed direction and offered support to the Thousand Worlds Coalition, aimed at isolating the Free Worlds League. The Federated Suns experienced political turmoil and lost several worlds to the expanding Terran hegemony, while the Draconis Combine saw a total regime change as the von Roers family came to power. The Free Worlds League continued its wars against the Lyran Commonwealth and Capellan Confederation while trying to limit the growing power of the Captain General. The Terran hegemony made strides forward in technology rather than territorial gains. The introduction of the MSK-5S Maquis by the Terran hegemony in 2439 marked the beginning of a new era of warfare in the Inner Sphere. While the concept of BattleMechs had been around for some time, the Maquis represented a level of rugged sophistication never before seen. The hegemony kept their new development a secret while building more mech factories and developing new models. In 2443, the hegemony fielded a lance of mechs against a Curitan armored company on sticks, easily handling the heavy Combine tanks. News of the new war machine spread like wildfire, and soon every state set its sights on developing its own BattleMechs. The Lyrans captured technical data on BattleMechs in 2455, enabling them to produce their own quickly. Other houses received the secrets of BattleMechs from the Lyrans in vastly different ways. The introduction of BattleMechs ushered in a new era of warfare, where a small force of mechs could conduct a battle of maneuver with little logistical support or collateral damage, making mech warriors the knights of their time. The Inner Sphere was thrown into a frenzy of conflict following the introduction of BattleMechs in 2439. From 2475 to about 2551, it is assumed that every state was at war with its neighbors, and border worlds became hosts to ceaseless invasions and counter-invasions. This period also saw great political unrest among the ruling families, with the Federated Suns experiencing a 15-year, three-way civil war, and the Lyran Commonwealth experiencing conflict between the Steiner family and several powerful rivals. The Draconis Combine avoided such problems through the remarkable Siriwan McAllister Corrida, who is suspected of having poisoned two dangerous coordinators and taking the position herself no less than 3 times during her 136-year lifetime. In the mid-25th century, the Terran hegemony's Director General Ian Cameron sought to unite humanity under one banner, despite the hegemony's own history of aggression. His chance came in 2551 when he negotiated a non-aggression pact and free trade agreement between the Free Worlds League, the Terrans, and the Capellan Confederation, effectively bringing half of mankind into peace for the first time in 300 years. Cameron and Albert Merrick then focused on the Lyran Commonwealth and successfully encouraged Tracial Steiner to sign the Tharkin Accords. However, the Federated Suns and Draconis Combine proved more challenging, and it took nearly a decade of diplomatic efforts and secret alliances before the new Avalon Accords and Treaty of Vega were signed. After 2 more years of negotiations, the Star League was formed in 2571, with Ian Cameron as the First Lord, ending the Age of War that had lasted for almost 2 centuries. Finally, on July 9, 2571, the Star League was officially born with the signing of the Star League Accords by Ian Cameron, the First Lord of the Star League, and the 5 House Lords. One of Ian Cameron's first acts as First Lord was to appoint his wife, Chandra Norif Cameron, as Chief of Staff and Commander-in-Chief of the Star League Defense Force, which was yet to be formed. Chandra divided the SLDF into 6 military regions, each with its capital, including Asta, Altair, Fomalhaut, Procyon, Sirius, and Rigel Kentaris. These regions stood between member states and Terra itself, assuring that each region had few troops from a bordering member state to prevent insurrection. Chandra also assigned loyal hegemony divisions as the core of each region's command structure. The SLDF also maintained 4 other military command structures, including one based on Terra, 2 reserve divisions, and an elite, rapid response division known as the Star Guards. Efforts were made to bring the periphery into the Star League, but it was not an easy task. The Reunification War was a series of bloody battles fought between the Star League and the Periphery realms. Finally, a ceasefire was reached with the Outworlds Alliance in 2585. The Magistracy of Canopus was defeated in 2588, and the insurrection in the Rim Worlds Republic was extinguished in 2596. The Taurian Concordat was the last Periphery realm to fall in 2596, but not before much destruction and loss of life. Each Periphery realm was forced through a reconstruction process, which was costly for the conquered realm. Some worlds, particularly in the Taurian Concordat, were annexed by neighboring member states. Upon completion of the reconstruction, each Periphery realm was made a non-voting territorial state. Though these territorial states held little external sway, each was allowed to enact Star League laws as it saw fit. Usually, all Star League laws are passed through little more than a legislative rubber stamp. In 2600, Lady Chandra Nor of Cameron died, followed 2 years later by Lord Ian. Ian's son Nicholas was declared leader of the Star League. During Nicholas's reign, the League narrowly averted a war with an unbalanced Leonard Carida and the Draconis Combine. Another feature of Nicholas's reign was a string of important technological breakthroughs. Michael Cameron assumed power in 2649 upon Nicholas's death. Michael's reign was characterized by incidents with the Rim Worlds Republic and House Carida, with the Draconis Combine encouraging independent mech warriors to engage SLDF forces in self-proclaimed duels in the First Hidden War. On October 13, 2690, Michael retired after he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and Jonathan Cameron, his oldest son, was designated his replacement. During Jonathan's reign, the SLDF faced renewed cries of discontent in the Periphery and a second political crisis from the Draconis Combine. Jonathan consulted his sister, Jocasta Cameron, more and more often, with Jocasta in effect becoming the de facto leader of the Star League. In 2738, Jonathan Cameron died of a stroke, and Mother Jocasta handed over the Star League to Jonathan's son, Simon. With the growing discontent in the Periphery and worried that Periphery forces could soon rival that of the regular army, First Lord Simon instructed that more fortresses be built in and along the Periphery border. The only Periphery kingdom apparently supporting the Star League was the Rim Worlds Republic. The construction of more fortresses along the Periphery border was a move that did not appease everyone, and the Federated Sons, led by Richard Davian, slowly withdrew its cooperation from Simon's reign. As a result, houses Davian and Carida drifted further away from participation in the Star League, and the League's peace initiatives failed. Simon Cameron died in 2751, leaving his 8-year-old son, Richard Cameron II, as the only successor. The five lords convened on Terra and appointed General Alexander Kerensky, commanding officer of the Star League Defense Force, as Richard's regent and protector. This move was made to protect the young Richard and maintain order in the Star League. However, tensions continued to simmer, and Richard's reign was marked by increasing conflict and turmoil. Stefan Amaris, the ruler of the Rim Worlds Republic, saw an opportunity to manipulate the young Richard Cameron. He poisoned Richard's thoughts and convinced him to remove all SLDF forces from the Rim Worlds Republic, leaving them defenseless. As the skirmishes between houses continued, Richard ordered all house armed forces to be disbanded. This angered the lords, who protested until Kerensky convinced Richard that the action was illegal. But Amaris continued to expand his influence on Richard and convinced him that Kerensky and the House Lords were against him. When the Periphery exploded in violence, Amaris offered the service of Rim World's forces to help defend the Terran hegemony. Despite objections, Amaris's offer was accepted. As more and more bases were placed under Republic control, Stefan Amaris assassinated Richard and all remaining members of the Cameron family, taking the power of the Star League and removing any trace of the Star League he could. Kerensky regrouped and quickly took the Rim Worlds Republic, dividing his forces up into 3 groups to travel through each of the accommodating houses toward the hegemony. In September of 2779, after a bloody battle and over 100 million total dead, soldiers on 8 worlds moved towards Terra and finally captured the planet. Amaris and his family were executed soon after Kerensky heard of the fate of Richard Cameron and his family. In 2780, the Council Lords stripped General Alexander Kerensky of his title of Protector, and he refused an offer by General de Chevalier to help overthrow the House Lords. The Lords still could not decide on a successor for the position of First Lord 10 months later, each claiming the position for themselves, leading to the council being dissolved on August 12, 2781. As the spirit of the Star League began eroding, General Kerensky made a bold move. He gathered 80% of the SLDF forces and they jumped out of the inner sphere, not to be seen again for nearly 270 years. This event completed the collapse of the Star League. Without the unifying force of the Star League, the great houses of the inner sphere descended into a period of conflict known as the Succession Wars. The collapse of the Star League was a significant turning point in the history of the inner sphere, marking the end of an era of relative peace and unity, and the beginning of a dark period of conflict and devastation. It would take centuries of war and suffering before the inner sphere could be unified once again, under the banner of the Star League. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to the Star League era. While we are still in a blackout, let us know which era is your favorite in the comments below. We will see you next time, and remember, if I fits, I sits.